We think we know what birds look like. We think we know how they sound. We see them every day. We hear them every morning. So we assume we understand them. But some birds break every rule. Some don't look real. Some don't sound real. And one of them shouldn't exist at all. And the strangest one isn't the first. It's not even in the middle. It's near the end. And when you see it, you'll know exactly why. At first glance, this bird doesn't look real. It looks like something left behind from another era, a creature that never quite fit into the modern world. This is the shoebill, a bird known for doing almost nothing. It can stand completely still for minutes, sometimes for hours, not because it's lazy, but because it's calculating. Its massive beak is the first thing you notice. Wide, heavy, and shaped like a solid block of bone. That beak isn't designed to grab, it's designed to crush. What most people expect is speed, but the shoebill doesn't hunt like a predator. It hunts like a statue, standing so still that even fish forget it's there. And when it finally strikes, there's no warning. One sudden motion, one precise hit. Even the sound it makes feels wrong. A deep, mechanical clattering, almost like a machine resetting itself. Up close, the shoebill doesn't react the way most birds do. It doesn't flinch. It doesn't panic. It just stares back, silent, unblinking, as if it's studying you instead. And this is only the first bird, because what comes next pushes weird even further. This bird should be loud, fast, and always in the air, but it isn't. This is the kakapo, a parrot that doesn't fly at all. Instead of wings built for speed, the kakapo has a body built for weight. It's heavy, round, almost clumsy, and it spends most of its life on the ground. That's the first thing that feels wrong. Parrots are supposed to move, to escape, to disappear into the sky. The kakapo never does. It walks slowly, carefully, through the forest at night, because this bird is nocturnal. While other birds sleep, the kakapo wakes up. But here's the twist. Despite being a parrot, despite being bright green, despite being completely flightless, for thousands of years it had no natural predators, so it never learned fear. The kakapo doesn't run, it doesn't panic. When danger approaches, it freezes, perfectly still, as if becoming invisible. And that instinct, which once kept it alive, is now what makes it so vulnerable. But the strangest thing about the kakapo is something most people never expect. When it wants to attract a mate, it doesn't sing. It booms, a deep, low-frequency sound that travels for kilometers through the forest. You can't always hear it, but you can feel it. And when you realize this silent, flightless bird is calling through the ground itself, it stops feeling funny and starts feeling unsettling. And the birds coming next break the rules in very different ways. At first glance, this bird doesn't look strange. It looks dangerous. This is the southern cassowary, one of the most aggressive birds on Earth. It stands nearly as tall as a human. Its body is dense, its posture rigid, and it does not back away. Most people expect danger to come from teeth or claws, but the cassowary's weapon is his foot. Each leg carries a long, curved claw, sharp, rigid, and shaped like a knife. That single claw is strong enough to tear muscle, to open flesh, and in rare cases, to kill. Here's the twist. The cassowary doesn't attack like an animal defending itself. It attacks like a weapon being deployed. When it charges, it doesn't peck. It kicks, jumping forward, driving that blade upward. One strike, no warning. What makes this bird even more unsettling is how unpredictable it is. Cassowaries don't hunt people. They don't stalk. but they also don't hesitate. If they feel threatened, they don't flee, they advance. And here's the fact most people never forget. In recorded encounters, cassowary attacks are often described as completely silent. No screeching, no display, just sudden movement, and then impact. Standing this close to a cassowary, you don't feel like you're facing a bird. You feel like you're standing in front of something ancient, something that never learned fear, and the birds coming next prove that danger doesn't always look the same. At first glance, this bird looks sick. Its head is bare, its neck hangs loose, and its body feels unfinished. This is the marabou stork, often called the ugliest bird in the world. But here's the first thing that feels wrong. This bird is enormous, standing nearly as tall as a human, with wings wide enough to cast a shadow over everything beneath it. Most birds try to look impressive, colorful, elegant. The marabou stork does the opposite. It looks decayed, and that's not an accident. Here's the twist. The marabou stork is built for death. It feeds on carcasses, on waste, on what other animals leave behind. That bald head isn't a flaw, it's protection. No feathers means no rot, no blood trapped in the skin. Every part of this bird is designed to survive in filth. And the fact most people never forget? Marabou storks don't just eat dead animals. They've been observed swallowing almost anything they can fit in their beak. Bones, flesh, trash, even pieces of cloth. Watching one feed doesn't feel like watching nature. It feels like watching something that cleans up after it. Silent, patient, unemotional. Standing there with its empty stare and motionless body. The marabou stork doesn't feel alive. It feels like a reminder that nature doesn't care about beauty, only function. And the birds coming next prove that weird doesn't always mean weak. This bird doesn't hunt the way you expect. It doesn't dive, it doesn't grab, and it doesn't tear prey apart with its beak. This is the secretary bird, a predator that hunts on foot. Standing tall above the grasslands, the secretary bird walks slowly, deliberately, as if it's searching for something specific. Most birds of prey rely on speed from the air. Here's the twist. The secretary bird fights on the ground, and its weapon is its legs. Long, powerful, and fast enough to strike with shocking precision. When it finds prey, it doesn't hesitate. It kicks, hard, again and again. Each strike is aimed, controlled, lethal, and this is the fact most people never forget. Secretary birds are known for killing venomous snakes, not by avoiding the bite, but by overwhelming them. They strike so quickly that the snake never gets a chance to respond. Watching it hunt doesn't feel like watching a bird. It feels like watching a trained fighter. Calm, focused, unemotional. No wasted movement, no panic. Just repetition until the fight is over. Standing there, with its feathers neat and its posture relaxed, it's hard to believe what those legs are capable of. And the birds coming next show that intelligence can be just as dangerous as strength. This bird smells. Not metaphorically, not occasionally. It actually smells. This is the hoatzin, a bird so strange that it doesn't behave like a bird at all. At first glance, it looks prehistoric. Scruffy feathers, awkward posture, a face that feels unfinished. But the real problem isn't how it looks, it's how it eats. Here's the twist. The hoatzin doesn't digest food like other birds. Instead of using its stomach, it ferments leaves, just like a cow. Inside its chest, the hoatzin carries a fermentation chamber filled with bacteria. As those leaves break down, they release gas. And that gas is what gives the hoatzin its smell. A strong, sour odor that earned it a nickname most birds would never survive with. The stink bird. And here's the fact people never forget. Because its chest is filled with fermentation organs, There's no room for powerful flight muscles. So the Hoatzin is a terrible flyer, heavy, clumsy, almost helpless in the air. But even that isn't the strangest part. Hoatzin chicks are born with claws on their wings. Actual claws. They use them to climb branches long before they ever learn to fly. Watching one move feels like watching evolution hesitate, not sure which direction to go. Standing there, smelling wrong, flying poorly, climbing like a reptile. The Hoatzin doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a question nature never finished answering. And the birds coming next? Take weird in a completely different direction. This bird doesn't just look heavy, it is heavy. This is the helmeted hornbill, and that massive structure on its head isn't hollow, it's solid. Unlike most birds, the helmeted hornbill's casque is made of dense bone, a single block, hard, compact, and strong enough to survive impact. Here's the twist. That head isn't for display. It's a weapon. Helmeted hornbills don't fight with claws. They don't grapple. They collide. Two birds launch themselves through the air and smash headfirst into each other, again and again. The sound of impact can be heard from hundreds of meters away, and this is the fact most people never forget. These collisions aren't accidents. They're deliberate, ritualized aerial battles where the head takes the full force. Watching it happen doesn't feel like watching birds fight. It feels like watching living projectiles. And there's something else that makes this bird unsettling. That solid casque is so dense that it's been carved like ivory. For centuries. Not for beauty, but for hardness. Standing beneath the forest canopy, hearing that collision echo through the trees, the helmeted hornbill doesn't feel fragile. It feels built for impact. And the birds coming next show that strength can take very different forms. You can't miss this bird, not because it moves fast, not because it's loud, but because its head doesn't make sense. This is the Andean cock of the rock, and that bright orange mass covering its face isn't feathers arranged by accident. It's a solid crest, round, bulbous, almost like a growth. At first glance, it looks uncomfortable, as if the bird is carrying something it shouldn't have. Here's the twist. That massive crest isn't for survival, it's for being seen. In the dark forests of the Andes, where light barely reaches the ground, this bird turns itself into a moving signal. When males gather, they don't fight, they display. Several bright orange birds jump, bow, and call in synchronized movements. A performance. And this is the fact most people never forget. Females choose mates almost entirely based on the size and visibility of that crest. Not strength, not territory, just appearance. Watching a group of them display doesn't feel like wildlife. It feels staged, as if nature paused and decided to experiment with color and shape until something felt wrong. Standing still, that crest blocks half the bird's vision, yet it keeps growing. Because in this world, being visible matters more than being practical. And the birds coming next prove that looking strange can sometimes be the whole point. This doesn't look like a face, it looks like a mask. Bright colors, hard lines, skin instead of feathers. This is the king vulture, and its head is completely bare, painted in red, orange, purple, blue. No two look exactly the same. At first glance, it feels unnatural, almost ceremonial. Here's the twist. That face isn't decoration. It's functional. King vultures feed on carcasses deep inside them, where blood, bacteria, and decay are unavoidable. Feathers would trap disease. Bare skin doesn't. It stays clean. And this is the fact most people never forget. King vultures are often the first to open a carcass. Other vultures wait. They can't get through the tough skin. The king vulture can. With its powerful beak, it breaks the seal. Only then do the others move in. Watching it feed doesn't feel chaotic. It feels ritualistic. One bird approaches first, the rest stand back, as if they're waiting for permission, standing there with that colorless body and that impossible face. The king vulture doesn't look alive. It looks like something wearing the idea of a bird. And the birds coming next will make you question what normal even means. This bird looks impossible. Its beak is enormous, too large, too curved, almost exaggerated. This is the rhinoceros hornbill, and that structure on its face looks like it shouldn't be there at all. At first glance, it feels heavy, unbalanced, as if the bird is carrying something it can barely support. Here's the twist. That massive beak isn't heavy, it's mostly hollow. A lightweight shell designed to look overwhelming without slowing the bird down. But that still doesn't explain why it's so large. And this is the fact most people never forget. The rhinoceros hornbill doesn't use its beak mainly for eating. It uses it to be seen. In the dense rainforests of Southeast Asia, where light barely cuts through the canopy, that oversized shape becomes a signal. A moving silhouette, a living landmark. When it flies, you don't notice the wings first. You notice the beak. It cuts through the forest like a warning. And when the bird calls, that hollow structure amplifies the sound, turning its voice into something deeper, louder, more commanding. Standing there, watching this bird move between trees, it doesn't feel natural. It feels engineered, as if nature decided that subtlety was no longer necessary, and the bird's coming next prove that sometimes looking ridiculous is exactly the point. If you hear a chainsaw in the forest, it might not be a chainsaw. If you hear a camera shutter, a car alarm, even human voices, it still might not be human. This is the lyrebird, a bird that doesn't just copy sounds, it recreates them, almost perfectly. At first, that sounds impressive. Here's the twist. The lyrebird doesn't imitate sounds to survive, it does it to perform. Male lyrebirds build small stages on the forest floor. They clear the ground. They prepare the space. And then they begin. They don't sing one sound. They build entire soundscapes. Bird calls, animal noises, mechanical sounds. Anything they've ever heard, all stitched together into a single performance. And this is the fact most people never forget. Some lyrebirds can mimic the sound of a camera shutter with such precision that even wildlife photographers have been fooled. Watching one perform doesn't feel natural. It feels artificial, as if the forest itself is playing tricks on you. You hear sounds that don't belong together, things that shouldn't coexist, and yet the bird knows exactly what it's doing. Standing there, watching a single animal recreate an entire environment. It doesn't feel like mimicry. It feels like manipulation. And the bird's coming next will make you question whether reality itself can be trusted. You wouldn't see this bird. You would hear it. Sharp clicks, rapid echoes, sounds bouncing back from complete darkness. This is the oil bird, a bird that lives where light disappears, deep inside caves, where eyes stop working. Most birds rely on vision. Here's the twist. The oil bird doesn't. It navigates using sound, just like a bat. As it flies through pitch-black tunnels, it releases a series of clicking noises. Those sounds bounce off cave walls, stalactites, and narrow openings. The echoes return, and the bird listens. That's how it knows where to turn, where to slow down, where not to crash. And this is the fact most people never forget. The oil bird is one of the only birds on Earth known to use echolocation. Not instinctively guessed, proven. Watching footage of oil birds in flight doesn't feel like watching birds. It feels like watching sonar, invisible paths being drawn in the air. Even stranger, oil birds don't eat meat. They eat fruit. Flying blind through caves at night just to reach forest trees, then returning before dawn. Standing in the dark, hearing those clicks surround you, you don't feel like nature is quiet. You feel like it's listening, and the birds coming next. Prove that darkness creates its own kind of rules. This doesn't sound like a bird. It sounds mechanical, broken, almost artificial. This is the capercaillie, one of the largest forest birds in Europe. And during mating season, it produces one of the strangest sounds any bird can make. A sequence of clicks, pops, grinding noises, as if something is winding down. At first it feels wrong. Birds are supposed to sing. Here's the twist. The capercaillie doesn't sing to be heard. It sings to block sound. During its mating display, the bird goes through several sound phases. And at the final stage, it temporarily loses its hearing completely. For a few seconds, the world goes silent. And that's exactly the point. By deafening itself, the capercaillie becomes fully focused. No distractions, no interruptions, just movement, posture, presence, and this is the fact most people never forget. During that silent moment, the bird is so absorbed in its display that it can be approached without reacting at all. Watching it perform doesn't feel natural. It feels ritualistic, like an ancient behavior passed down without question. Standing there in the forest, listening to a sound that ends in silence, the capercaillie doesn't feel alive. It feels programmed. And the birds coming next show that sound can be just as powerful as sight. This bird doesn't act like an animal. It acts like a child, a curious one, a bored one, and a very destructive one. This is the kea, a parrot that lives high in the mountains of New Zealand. Cold, wind, snow. Not a place where parrots are supposed to thrive. But the kea does more than survive. It experiments. Most birds avoid unfamiliar objects. Here's the twist. The kea is drawn to them. If it sees something new, it doesn't back away. It investigates. Zippers, rubber seals, antennas, even parts of cars. The kea pulls, picks, tears, not to eat, just to see what happens. And this is the fact most people never forget. Kea have been observed working together to dismantle objects. One distracts, another pulls, a third waits. Watching them doesn't feel like wildlife. It feels like problem solving. Standing near a kea, you don't feel threatened by strength. You feel threatened by curiosity. Because curiosity doesn't stop when something breaks. It keeps going. The kea doesn't seem aggressive. It seems amused, as if destruction is just another form of play. And when you realize this bird is constantly learning, the laughter fades, and the bird's coming next. Show what happens when intelligence meets instinct. This doesn't look like a bird display. It looks like a machine warming up. This is the greater sage grouse. And during mating season, its body does something that feels impossible. The bird inflates its chest. Two massive air sacs push forward, stretching the skin until it looks unnatural. Then it moves, slowly, deliberately. Here's the twist. The sage grouse doesn't sing. It produces sound mechanically. By forcing air through its inflated chest, it creates deep popping noises. Low, hollow, almost industrial. Each movement is precise. Each sound is timed. Watching it perform doesn't feel emotional. It feels programmed. And this is the fact most people never forget. Entire groups of sage grouse gather at the same locations year after year. The exact same spots. They perform the same movements, in the same order, for generations, as if following instructions written long before any of them were born. Standing there watching dozens of birds inflate, deflate, and produce sound without ever singing, it doesn't feel like courtship. It feels like ritual, cold, repetitive, ancient, and the birds coming next. will show that sometimes nature doesn't evolve forward. It repeats itself. There's nothing there, just a broken branch, a dead stump, something the forest forgot, and then it opens its mouth. This is the potu, a bird designed to disappear. At first glance, you don't see a bird at all. You see wood, texture, stillness. The potu doesn't hide behind leaves. It becomes the branch. Here's the twist. That perfectly still shape is only half the story, because when the potu hunts, it opens its mouth. Wide. Far wider than any bird its size should be able to. Its jaw stretches into a massive opening, built to swallow insects midair. And this is the fact most people never forget. When the potu closes its eyes, you still feel watched, because its eyelids aren't solid. They're partially transparent. Even while resting, the bird can still see light and movement. Watching a potu at night doesn't feel like observing wildlife. It feels like discovering something that was already there, watching you first. The bird doesn't move. It doesn't react, until suddenly it does. One snap, one motion, then silence again. Standing beneath that branch, realizing it was never just a branch, the forest feels different, less empty. And the birds coming next will show that disguise is only one way to survive. This isn't a bird, it's a piece of wood, a broken branch, a dead knot on a tree, something you would never look at twice until it breathes. This is the frogmouth, a bird that survives by becoming nothing. Unlike most birds, the frogmouth doesn't try to escape danger. It doesn't fly away. It doesn't hide behind leaves. Here's the twist. It pretends to be dead. When threatened, the frogmouth stretches its neck, freezes its body, and points its head upward, perfectly still. Its feathers flatten, its eyes narrow. Its shape becomes wood. And this is the fact most people never forget. Even while holding that pose, the frogmouth continues to breathe, slowly, almost invisibly. Watching one in the wild doesn't feel like camouflage. It feels like taxidermy, a living animal imitating something lifeless, for minutes, sometimes longer. Standing there, knowing that branch is alive, your instincts fail. Your eyes stop trusting themselves. The forest doesn't feel full anymore. It feels deceptive, because now you know some things don't hide. They disappear, and the birds coming next will prove that survival doesn't always require movement. This bird doesn't fly away, it steps forward, slowly, deliberately, as if it's about to begin something. This is the kagu, a bird found only on one island and nowhere else on Earth. At first glance, it looks fragile, pale feathers, soft posture, almost harmless. But then it moves. Here's the twist. When threatened, the kagu doesn't hide. It performs. Its crest rises, its wings spread wide, revealing bold patterns that were never meant to be subtle. The bird freezes in place, facing whatever stands in front of it. And this is the fact most people never forget. Instead of attacking or fleeing, the kagu confronts danger by turning itself into a display. Larger, brighter, impossible to ignore. Watching it happen doesn't feel like defense. It feels ritualistic, like a behavior learned long before fear meant running. Standing there with its crest fully raised and wings locked open, the kagu doesn't look alive. It looks symbolic, as if it's acting out an ancient rule that no longer makes sense. And yet, it still does it. Every time. And the birds coming next will show that evolution doesn't always remove old behaviors. Sometimes it preserves them. This bird looks harmless, quiet, small, almost forgettable. This is the sunbittern, and most of the time, it wants to stay that way. Standing still near rivers and streams, the sunbittern blends in. Muted colors, slender body, nothing that demands attention until it moves. Here's the twist. When threatened, the sun bittern doesn't fly. It opens its wings, and suddenly the bird disappears. In its place are eyes, large, perfectly shaped, staring back. The inside of its wings are covered in bold patterns that look exactly like giant eyes. Not feathers arranged randomly, but precise markings designed to shock. And this is the fact most people never forget. These eyes aren't used for flight or display to attract mates. They exist for one purpose: to scare. In a single motion, the sun bittern transforms from invisible to impossible to ignore. Watching it happen doesn't feel natural. It feels like a magic trick, as if the bird was hiding something just beneath the surface, standing there with those eyes fully revealed. Your brain hesitates. Are you looking at a bird or something pretending to be one? And the bird's coming next will prove that nature's illusions can get even stranger. This bird looks normal until it doesn't. This is the great bustard, one of the heaviest birds on Earth capable of flight. Most of the time, it moves quietly across open plains, reserved, almost invisible. Then mating season begins, and everything changes. Here's the twist. The great bustard doesn't display by showing off feathers. It rearranges its entire body. The bird twists its wings outward, flips its feathers inside out, pulls white plumage over its chest and face. Its neck disappears, its head shrinks, its shape collapses inward. For a moment, it no longer looks like a bird. It looks like something turned inside out. And this is the fact most people never forget. During this display, the great bustard becomes nearly unrecognizable. Even experienced observers sometimes fail to identify it until it moves again. Watching it happen doesn't feel like courtship. It feels like a glitch, as if the bird has access to form it's not supposed to have. Standing there in the grassland, watching a familiar shape transform into something alien. Your brain struggles to keep up. Is this attraction, or camouflage, or something else entirely? And the bird's coming next will show that nature can twist bodies in even stranger ways. This bird doesn't look curious, it looks judging. A bare head, dark skin, eyes that don't blink. This is the vulture guinea fowl. At first glance, it feels out of place. Guinea fowl are usually noisy, restless, almost comical. This one isn't. Here's the twist. The vulture guinea fowl evolved to resemble something else entirely, a scavenger. Its bald head isn't a flaw, it's protection. Just like vultures, feathers around the face would trap blood and bacteria. Bare skin stays clean. And this is the fact most people never forget. Unlike most birds, vulture guinea fowl often feed in silence, moving together, watching, waiting. Their eyes track everything, not nervously, not quickly, but steadily. Standing near a group of them doesn't feel chaotic. It feels controlled, as if they're assessing the situation before deciding what to do next. Watching you, judging distance, movement, intent. In the open savannas of Africa, that kind of still attention feels unsettling. These birds don't rush. They don't scatter. They remain. And when they finally move, it's together. As if following a rule you were never taught. And the bird's coming next will show that some species don't need size or strength to feel threatening. That's not a bird, it's a snake. At least that's what your eyes tell you. A thin neck sliding through the water, barely breaking the surface. This is the anhinga, often called the snake bird. Most birds avoid the water. Here's the twist. The anhinga disappears into it. When it swims, its body sinks completely below the surface. Only the neck remains. Long, narrow, unblinking. From a distance, it doesn't look alive. It looks like something stalking, And this is the fact most people never forget. Unlike ducks or cormorants, the anhinga's feathers aren't fully waterproof. Water seeps in, the bird becomes heavier, and that's intentional. It allows the anhinga to dive silently. No splash, no disturbance, just a slow descent into the water. Watching one hunt doesn't feel dramatic. It feels predatory. The bird doesn't chase, it waits, then strikes underwater with its sharp, spear-like beak. Standing near the shoreline, seeing that neck glide past, your brain hesitates. Is this a bird or something else using feathers by accident? And when the anhinga finally emerges, spreading its wings to dry, you realize something unsettling. It has to stop being a hunter just to survive. And the birds coming next will show that nature can blur lines even further. This face doesn't belong to a bird. It looks human, and not in a comforting way. This is the Sri Lanka frogmouth. And the first thing people notice is its expression: wide mouth, flattened face, eyes set forward. It doesn't look alert, it looks aware. At first glance, it feels like the bird is reacting to you. Here's the twist. That face isn't for communication. It's camouflage. The frogmouth spends its life pretending to be something else. A broken branch, a stump, a piece of bark. Its colors match dead wood. Its posture mimics decay. And when it freezes, it doesn't just hold still, it commits. And this is the fact most people never forget. The frogmouth's mouth is absurdly wide. When it opens, it doesn't peck, it swallows. Insects are taken whole, mid-air, in a single snap. Watching one at night doesn't feel like bird watching. It feels like discovering a creature that learned how to imitate life. Standing beneath a tree, seeing that face emerge from the dark. Your brain hesitates. Is it watching you, or is it just shaped that way? And the longer you stare, the harder it becomes to tell the difference. And the birds coming next will prove that nature's designs can feel disturbingly intentional. This bird's face doesn't look aerodynamic. It looks unfinished. This is the boat-billed heron, and that enormous beak is wider than its own head, flat, curved, shaped like a scoop. At first glance, it feels impractical. Herons are supposed to have sharp beaks, fast strikes, precision. Here's the twist. The boat-billed heron doesn't hunt by sight. It hunts by feel. At night, it stands motionless near water, its massive beak slightly open, waiting. When something moves beneath the surface, the beak snaps shut. Not because it saw prey, because it felt it. And this is the fact most people never forget. The boat-billed heron's beak is sensitive enough to detect vibrations in the water, tiny movements, barely noticeable ripples. Watching one feed doesn't feel like hunting, it feels like sensing, as if the bird is reading the water instead of looking at it. Its eyes are large, unblinking, almost expressionless, standing there in the darkness with that oversized face hovering above the surface. The bird doesn't look alive, it looks like a tool, a device left behind from a much older ecosystem. And the birds coming next will remind you that size alone can change everything. This bird doesn't look at you, it pins you. This is the harpy eagle, one of the most powerful eagles on Earth. Its body is massive, its wings are broad, but it's the legs that stop you. Thick, muscular, ending in talons the size of a bear's claws. At first glance, it feels exaggerated, too heavy for flight. Here's the twist. The harpy eagle doesn't hunt in open skies. It hunts inside rainforests, dense, dark, crowded with branches. Instead of soaring, it moves between trees, slowly, silently. And when it strikes, it doesn't chase. It grabs, with a grip strong enough to crush bone instantly. And this is the fact most people never forget. Harpy eagles regularly hunt animals that weigh nearly as much as they do. Monkeys, sloths, prey that fights back. Watching one perch above the forest floor doesn't feel like watching a bird. It feels like watching a judge, still, observing, deciding. Those feathers on its head aren't decoration. When raised, they make the bird look even larger, even more deliberate. Standing beneath a harpy eagle, you don't feel chased, you feel evaluated. And once the decision is made, there's no escape. And the birds coming next will show that even scavengers can be just as extreme. This bird doesn't eat meat. It eats what's left after everything else is gone. This is the lammergeier, also known as the bearded vulture. Most scavengers tear flesh. They fight over muscle and organs. Here's the twist. The lammergeier ignores all of that. It feeds on bone, not scraps, not marrow left behind, whole bones. Up to 90% of its diet is made of skeleton. And this is the fact most people never forget. When a bone is too large to swallow, the lammergeier doesn't give up. It carries the bone high into the sky, then it drops it over and over again until the bone shatters on the rocks below. Only then does the bird descend. Watching this behavior doesn't feel natural. It feels intentional, calculated. The lammergeier doesn't rush, it doesn't compete. It waits for death to finish its work, and then it finishes the rest. Its stomach acid is strong enough to dissolve bone completely, leaving nothing behind. Standing near one, watching it glide silently through mountain air. The lammergeier doesn't feel like a scavenger. It feels like a cleaner, an end stage, a species designed to erase the final evidence that something once lived. And the birds coming next will show that nature can become even stranger when survival turns creative. This shouldn't be hanging there. A long, black mass dangling from the bird's throat. Too long, too heavy, too exposed. This is the long, wattled umbrella bird. And that structure isn't a mistake. It's a wattle, a fleshy extension that can hang nearly the length of the bird's body. At first glance, it looks like a burden, something that would slow the bird down. Here's the twist. That dangling mass is exactly why the bird survives. The longer the wattle, the more dominant the male. During mating season, umbrella birds gather, not to fight, but to display. The male inflates its chest, raises the wattle, and produces a deep, hollow call, low, resonant, almost vibrating through the forest. And this is the fact most people never forget. Females don't choose based on strength or territory. They choose the bird with the longest, most exaggerated wattle. Watching this display doesn't feel like attraction. It feels excessive, as if evolution kept pushing one trait past the point of reason. Standing there, seeing that wattle sway with each movement, you don't see elegance, you see commitment. A species willing to sacrifice practicality for one purpose, to be chosen. And the birds coming next will show that sometimes survival isn't about being efficient. It's about being impossible to ignore. This bird looks unfinished. Its head is bare. Its skin is red. Its posture feels deliberate. This is the bald ibis. And the first reaction most people have is discomfort. Birds aren't supposed to look like this. At first glance, the bald ibis seems sick. Here's the twist. That bald head is intentional. Like vultures, the bald ibis feeds in places where feathers would become a problem. Bare skin stays clean, free of dirt, free of decay. But function isn't what makes this bird unsettling. It's how it moves. The bald ibis walks slowly, methodically. Its long, curved beak probes the ground with careful precision. And this is the fact most people never forget. Bald ibises often forage in groups that move together in near silence. No chaos, no urgency, just coordinated movement. Watching them doesn't feel natural. It feels ceremonial, as if the birds are following rules older than memory. Standing nearby, with those red faces and dark, unblinking eyes, you don't feel watched, you feel acknowledged, as if your presence has already been accounted for. The bald ibis doesn't react to surprise. It expects you, and the birds coming next will remind you that strange often survives the longest. This bird looks tired, not physically, emotionally. This is the tawny frogmouth, and the first thing people notice is its face. Heavy eyelids, flattened features, a mouth that curves downward. It doesn't look alert, it looks bored. At first glance, it feels familiar, almost human. Here's the twist. That expression means nothing. The frog mouth isn't sad, it isn't sleepy, it just happens to be shaped that way. Its wide mouth isn't for emotion, it's a trap. At night, the frog mouth sits completely still, waiting. When insects fly past, it doesn't chase. It opens its mouth and swallows them whole. And this is the fact most people never forget. During the day, the tawny frog mouth doesn't hide. It pretends, stretching its body upward, narrowing its eyes, aligning with branches. It doesn't blend in. It convinces you there's nothing there. Watching one during daylight doesn't feel like camouflage. It feels like being lied to. And that face, the longer you look at it, the more uncomfortable it becomes, because it mirrors something familiar. A tired expression, a blank stare, a moment without reaction. Standing beneath a tree, realizing that face has been watching all along, you don't feel observed, you feel recognized. And the birds coming next will bring us back to where we began. You've seen this bird before, but now it feels different. This is the shoebill. Again, earlier it looked strange, unnatural, out of time. Now, after everything you've seen, it feels deliberate. The shoebill doesn't move. It doesn't need to. It stands there completely still, not hiding, not threatening, just waiting. And here's the twist. After watching all these birds, you realize something unsettling. The shoebill isn't the weirdest because of what it does. It's the weirdest because of what it doesn't do. No display, no performance, no warning. It doesn't rush. It doesn't react. It simply exists with absolute patience. And that calm is what makes it unsettling. Standing there, with eyes locked forward, body frozen in place, the shoebill doesn't feel alive. It feels aware, as if it's not part of the forest, as if it's observing it, observing you. And maybe that's why this bird stays with you. Because in a world full of noise, movement, and chaos, the strangest thing of all is something that doesn't need to change. After seeing all of them, one of these birds probably stayed with you. Not the loudest, not the biggest, but the one you couldn't stop thinking about. Somewhere near the end, your idea of what a bird should be quietly changed. And that's the strange part, because once you notice it, you can't unsee it. So if one of these birds stood out to you, you already know which one.